What if I told you that one of the most powerful women in the Bible wasn't a queen of virtue, but a queen of destruction? A woman so feared that her name became a symbol of evil for generations to come. She wasn't just ruthless, she was cunning, dangerous, and determined to destroy anyone who stood in her way. But Jezebel wasn't always the wicked queen we know her as today. She was born into royalty, married into power, and ruled with an iron fist. And yet, her tragic downfall was as dramatic as her rise. Stay with me as we unravel the chilling tale of Jezebel, the queen who defied God. Long before her name became infamous, Jezebel was a princess. She was the daughter of Ethbaal, the king of Sidon, a Phoenician city known for its wealth, trade, and most importantly, the worship of Baal, a pagan god. Unlike the Israelites, who worshipped Yahweh, the Phoenicians served idols and practiced rituals that would make even the bravest shudder. Jezebel wasn't just a believer in Baal, she was a devoted follower. Her father was not just a king but also a high priest of Baal, meaning Jezebel grew up steeped in idol worship. She learned that power belonged to those who could seize it, and that gods could be manipulated with enough sacrifices. When King Ahab of Israel sought an alliance with Sidon, he married Jezebel, bringing her into the heart of God's chosen people. But Jezebel didn't just come as a queen, she came as a conqueror. The moment Jezebel entered Israel, she began to change everything. Ahab, weak-willed and desperate to please his new queen, allowed her to introduce Baal worship into Israel. The temples of Yahweh? Ignored. The priests of God? Hunted down. The name of the Lord? Forbidden. Jezebel didn't just want power, she wanted total control. She personally ordered the slaughter of God's prophets, replacing them with 450 prophets of Baal and 400 prophets of Asherah. She erected altars, demanded worship, and silenced anyone who dared oppose her. And yet, there was one man who refused to bow. Enter Elijah, the fiery prophet of God. He was fearless, standing against Jezebel and Ahab, proclaiming that their wickedness would bring a devastating drought upon the land. For 3 years, Israel withered under the curse, and Jezebel's grip on the people weakened. But she refused to repent. Instead, she sought to kill Elijah, driving him into hiding. Then, in a dramatic twist, Elijah reappeared, challenging Jezebel's prophets to a battle on Mount Carmel. The challenge was simple. If Baal was truly a god, let him send fire from the sky. If Yahweh was the true God, let him respond. Jezebel's prophets cried out to Baal. They danced, they cut themselves, they screamed. But Baal remained silent. Then, Elijah stepped forward. He prayed to Yahweh, and in an instant, fire rained down from heaven, consuming the sacrifice, the altar, even the water surrounding it. The people fell to their knees, crying, "The Lord, He is God!" In that moment, Jezebel's kingdom began to crumble. But she wasn't finished yet. Furious, Jezebel sent a death threat to Elijah, vowing to kill him within 24 hours. But Elijah fled, and her power over Israel began to weaken. Still, Jezebel was relentless. When Ahab desired a vineyard belonging to a man named Naboth, Jezebel devised a wicked scheme. She framed Naboth for blasphemy and had him stoned to death. Then, with a smug smile, she handed the land to her husband. But this time, God had seen enough. Through the prophet Elijah, God declared a chilling prophecy. Ahab's dynasty would be wiped out. Jezebel's body would never be buried with honor. Instead, she would be devoured by dogs in the streets of Jezreel. Years passed, and one by one, the prophecy unfolded. Ahab was killed in battle. His sons were slaughtered. And finally, Jezebel's moment arrived. When Jehu, the warrior anointed by God to bring judgment, rode into Jezreel, Jezebel refused to run. Instead, she painted her face, adorned her hair, and stood defiantly at her palace window. As Jehu entered the city, she mocked him, calling him a traitor. But Jehu wasn't impressed. With a single command, her own eunuchs betrayed her. They threw her from the window, and she crashed to the ground, her blood splattering against the walls. And just as Elijah had prophesied, dogs devoured her body, leaving nothing behind but her skull, her hands, and her feet. The mighty queen of destruction had met her end. Jezebel's story didn't end with her death. Her name became a warning, a symbol of rebellion against God. In the book of Revelation, Jesus himself warns against the spirit of Jezebel, a spirit of idolatry, manipulation, and corruption. But what can we learn from her story? Jezebel had power, wealth, and influence. But she lacked one thing: humility before God. Her pride led to her downfall, and her rebellion led to her destruction. The same spirit of Jezebel can creep into our lives today, when we prioritize power over truth, when we reject God's voice, and when we chase after things that lead us away from Him. But there's hope. Unlike Jezebel, we have a chance to turn back, to choose faith over idolatry, obedience over rebellion, and humility over pride. So, I ask you, are you following the path of Jezebel or the path of God? If this story intrigued you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful Bible stories that will challenge, inspire, and deepen your faith. Until next time, stay blessed.